All right, welcome to Lawyer Henderson TV. I'm your host, I'm your brother, I'm your friend to the end, Lawyer Henderson TV. Today we're talking about the ongoing murder case against two white men, two white supremacists who murdered Ahmaud Arbery in Glenn County, Georgia. They said that these guys have no bond, and we're going to be talking about this. But this is not the first time that Ahmaud Arbery was harassed by some white supremacists. The white supremacist race soldiers in the Glenn County Police Department had also tried to harass him back in 2017. So we're going to break down a story about how these white supremacists, they like to shell out their guns because, as I told you earlier, later on in other commentaries, they can't fight worth the damn. Okay, so that's the reason why they have to pack guns. If it's shoe fit, wear it. I mean, why is it that you have these white supremacists who don't want to fight us as black men one-on-one without any shotguns, any weapons? You look at that video, you see how the father, hadn't the son not shot him, then the father would have shot him. So that's the thing here. The Lawyer Henderson show is going live. White supremacy has always tried their best to destroy and kill black people on the streets wherever we be. They always try to find some way to kill us. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Lawyer Henderson. I'm the host of the Lawyer Henderson TV show, and thank you for joining us for this podcast. Tonight, we're talking about Ahmaud Arbery and how the two murder suspects down there in Glenn County, Georgia, had murdered him. And so this is not the first time that Ahmaud Arbery has been pretty much up against race soldiers after this whole incident happened. Okay, I'm going to tell you about this story here in just a moment. I want to read something to you that this was not the first time that that this had happened to Ahmaud Arbery, as far as being harassed either by white police officers. It says here that Chicago Suns did a story about how Georgia officer tried to stun Ahmaud Arbery in 2017. So this is not the first time that these race soldiers had tried to harass and find some way to kill him. And here we go into the story. It says, more than 2 years before he was fatally shot in Georgia's subdivision, Ahmaud Arbery had tense confrontation in a public park with police officers who attempted. What's going on, man? I'm sorry, my computer's acting up here. A tense confrontation in a public park with police officers who attempted to use a stun gun on him after Arbery angrily protests being bothered. So they basically, this is not the first time. You see, they were saying that he tried to use a stun gun at a park, and that these white supremacist race soldiers was pretty much trying to find some way to kill him. So Arbery was killed in February, about 2 miles from his home and neighborhood outside Brownsburg, Georgia. Gregory McMichaels told police they saw him running and believed he was a burglary suspect, so he and his son armed themselves, got into a truck, and followed him. They told police Arbery attacked them after one of them got out of the truck with a shotgun. Arbery's family and their attorney says Arbery was out for a jog when he was killed. They believe he was a victim of racial profiling and have called the killing a lynching. Once again, a black man was lynched in Georgia. It was an unfortunate incident because we see this too often. NAACP President Derek Johnson said in a press conference Friday, "That's a sad statement, and we are in the nation. Where we are in this nation." Here's the latest news on the killing of Ahmaud Arbery. Friday morning, a crowd gathered outside Glenn County Courthouse in southern Georgia to honor Arbery. Meanwhile, Arbery family, friends, and supporters are holding a dedication distance run Friday for what will have been Arbery's 26th birthday. Our community here in Brunswick, Georgia, lost an avid runner on February 23, 2020, while out on a run. Ahmaud Arbery's life was taken away from us by a group of men who falsely suspected him of wrongdoing. A Facebook group, I Would Run for Ahmaud, said in its event description, "Please show your support as runners, joggers, or walkers and dedicate a 2.23-mile workout to Ahmaud Arbery." Now, here's the thing about these race soldiers in Georgia and these race soldiers everywhere. Now, it goes on to say that Gregory McMichael later told police that he and his son thought that the man matched someone caught on the security cameras committing a recent break-in into the neighborhood, according to the police report. The Glenn County Police Department said Thursday that it had no reports involving burglars on the home break-ins in Satilla Shores neighborhood between January the 1st and February 23rd. However, local media report that one burglar in an automobile burglary was reported to police in Satilla Shores neighborhood during that time period. Meanwhile, William Rodney Bryant, who lived a few houses down from Travis, recorded the video, according to the memo obtained by USA Today, written by the district attorney who previously led the investigation into Arbery's death. You see. Now, we talked about Gregory McMichael and his white supremacist son. Both of them are white supremacists. We talked about him and his son, Travis McMichael. And Gregory McMichael and Travis McMichael, they're white supremacists. They were down there. They know the district attorney down there, who should have been arrested for obstruction of justice, know that this man was not the suspect they were looking for. They were just trying. This is a lynching where they were wanting to, let the black people in this neighborhood know, look, this is what kind of white people we are. We are lynching niggas down here. Don't come down here jogging in our neighborhood. We're lynching niggas down here. So this was a lynching, as the father described it here. And they're talking about eradicating the Glenn County Police Department. They're not going to eradicate this police department. This is just white explaining. This is just window dressing. This is all about trying to cover up for the trying to make it seem as if they're going to do something to the McMichaels. I won't be shocked if these two guys have only did manslaughter. See, like I said, they already did this George Zimmerman thing all over again against this guy, and this is what this came out to be. Black men being killed and murdered in America has become, pretty much a norm in American white society. They like to have these race soldiers killing us almost every year to keep something going. It's just like when we were lynched back in the 1800s, 1900s, where we were lynched and killed and murdered and hung. That was a celebration for white supremacists. And a lot of people don't understand. A lot of black people don't understand that because they don't think racism exists in this nation. But we still have a conversation over and over again about the same kind of things, where you got black people pretending like racism does not exist, and then white people, and that helped white people to play dumb with racism as well. That's one of the reasons why we have not confronted racism in this nation like it should be. The two McMichaels and the guy who filmed this, I don't know. They pretty much said that he was the third suspect in there. And the Georgia Bureau of Investigation said that he's been investigated now. So we don't know what role he played. We don't know if that was the attorney or there's somebody else. But the homeowner spoke out on CNN. The guy who pretty much owned the house that was in development, he spoke out. And he said that he didn't believe that Mr. Arbery was trying to steal anything, which everybody's believing he didn't have anything to steal. He didn't have anything to worry about. But he also was very interesting to make a point that they're trying to use his home to pretty much as a safe haven, as a defense. And that's what the McMichaels were trying to do. That's what the homeowners were saying. That was very interesting that he would say that the McMichaels, who claims to be making a citizen's arrest, where in fact that they didn't see any felony taking progress, and anybody in a sense know that a citizen arrest you had to watch them in felony, as far as committing a felony rather, in order for you to make a citizen's arrest. And so they use the same kind of crap that George Zimmerman used, and we have a stream of burglaries in the area. And when a dispatcher asked, well, what was this guy doing, they had to admit that he was jogging. It doesn't sound like the jogging is a crime. The Michaels are just, they lie. And so what they're trying to do now, just like these prosecutors, you can see how racism that we see in the white supremacist court systems and the district attorney's office, a lot of DAs who pretty much should be charged, and who pretty much have been unscathed by how their racism and white supremacist tactics have been used in order to kill black men and rationalize that. So that is some things that we have to look at in this country. We got to look at why this is continuing to happen. Like I said earlier, this is a built-in culture for white Americans. They love to have, black people being lynched and being oppressed, being downward, struggling, and stuff like that. They like to see that happening on us. That is something that really turns them on. And like I said, black people try to pretend like racism does not exist in this nation. You're fooling yourself. Racism is a part of the United States culture. There's people among us who are foolish to say, well, we should go back to Africa. You're not going to escape racism, by just going to Africa, you see. Because racism, white supremacy is global. You see, it's global. And I would think that if we understood racism more, then just thinking that it exists in a vacuum, and come to terms that white racism. You see, this is what I've been trying to tell black people. You can't have racism without there being someone that is pretty much doing it to you. A lot of black people like to play with their minds and think that racism exists in a vacuum, But anyway, with these race soldiers, they try to say that they're going to try to do something, do away with the Glenn Police Department. They were going to try to get rid of the Glenn County Police Department. I don't think that they're going to do that. I think that they're going to like I said earlier, they're window dressing. They're not going to stop these race soldiers in this city. Excuse me. They're not going to stop them. They're not going to do nothing about it. It's just going to be another Trayvon Martin. These race soldiers get off on a lesser crime. They have already brought this black woman in here from Cobb County, and the window dressing begins. But anyway, leave your comments. Tell me what you think about it. I mean, I've had to give my little 2 cents here, but that's how I have to just explain it here. It's just another white supremacist celebration of not illegal but an illegal lynching, and And that's going to continue because, like I said, this is the norm for white supremacy and white supremacists in this nation. But leave your comments in your comment feed. Don't forget to like my page and subscribe, Lawyer Henderson TV. Thank you for listening.